Okay.
divine intervention or...
Yeah. So we're class number 9, the book of Shemuel, Perek Dalet, Pasuk Aleph. Last week we did a whole chapter. Geez, I wonder if we'll be able to finish a chapter today. Maybe, possibly not. But I will give you an introduction because you have to understand the historical context. So now we're making a shift. Until now, we were in a very small world. Until now, in the first 8 classes, we were in the world of the Mishkan in Shiloh. Almost the entire story took place within the Mishkan, in the city of Shiloh. That's where we were. Now, the story is finally shifting outwards. We're changing the location. We're changing the characters in the story. We're changing the tenor of the story. It's going to take a dramatic turn now. And let me tell you why it's going to take a dramatic turn. So here we are dealing with the Philistines. The Philistines were the arch enemies of the Jews. These people, the Philistines, were actually a sea people of Greek origin. They were from the Greek islands, from the Aegean Sea, Cretans, ethnically speaking. They were from the Greek islands, Cretans, and there were 3 waves of Philistine intrusions into Israel. So what happened is they were colonialists. They were coming from the Greek islands and looking to conquer new worlds and set up colonies in these new worlds. So these are the Philistines. They came into Israel in 3 waves of immigrations. The first wave was right before Abraham Avinu gets there. They come from the Mediterranean, from the west. Abraham comes from the east. And Abraham has, he meets the Philistines, and they actually enter into Abraham and Yitzchak. They enter into a sort of peace agreement, peace accords. Nothing terrible happens at this point in time. The second wave of Philistine invasion happens when the Jews are actually leaving Egypt. So the Jews are leaving Egypt, the Philistines already entered Israel, and there's actually a pasuk, and we're going to read it this week in the Parashah. This week, the Parashah says that Hashem was trying to was considering which way should I take from Egypt to Israel. So you have your ways. So you look at the ways. You say what's the best way to get from point A to point B. So the ways gives you a few routes. One with tolls, one without tolls, one short, one long. So some people say that I just pay the tolls. Give me the shortest route, and I'll pay the money. And then other people say, no, I'd rather save some money and take a slightly longer route. So that was the case with the Jews leaving Egypt. They could have taken a really short route. But if they would have taken a really short route, they would have had to pay a very expensive price. What was the expensive price? So the pasuk says in this week's parasha, war. Velo naham Elohim derech eres pelishtim. The Philistines were already in the southern part of Israel, and had the Jews gone straight from Egypt to Israel, as you would expect them to do, there would have been a war. They weren't ready for war. So the ways, the divine ways, which is the best ways, it takes them to the south and around. Okay. And then, finally, 40 years later, the Jews enter Israel, and there's another wave of Philistines. So the Jews are entering Israel from the east. The Philistines are coming, and they start 5 city-states on the southern coastal plain of Israel. You know where Ashkelon is today? Ashkelon, Ashdod. So they start 5 new cities over there, and they're by the coast. The Jews are from the other side. But what happens? The Philistines are warlike people. They're not interested in just staying in the coast. They want everything. And here's the thing. They had a particular expertise in metalworks. They knew how to make tools out of metals. The Jews did not have this technology. And because they had this technology, the Philistines had this technology, they were able to make weapons. And they were very courageous warriors, okay? So they have these weapons, they have the courage, they're physically strong, and in fact they were so strong that other armies would often hire the Philistines as mercenaries in their army. So they would be paid mercenaries because they were very They were warriors. They were very warlike people. So this is a threat. This is a threat to the Jewish people. A word about their religion. They were pagans. Who weren't pagans in those days other than the Jews, right? So, and then eventually Western civilization changed because of the Torah. But nevertheless, the Philistines were pagans. They worshipped a Canaanite god called Dagon. That's going to play a role in our story, not today. In one of the next weeks, we're going to read about Dagon. That's a god of fertility and a god of corn. But they were pagans. Now, they were so powerful and they were so effective that how many tribes were there for the Jewish people? There were 12 tribes, right? There were 12 portions in the land of Israel. They actually displaced one tribe completely. The tribe of Dan was displaced, had to find another house. Okay? The tribe of Benjamin, they were incursions into the tribe of Benjamin. They actually set up a city in the middle of the tribe of Benjamin. They set up a military outpost. They were beginning incursions all over Israel. Our story takes place. You know, modern day Israel, who's been there? Some people of you have been there. I'm sure many of you have been there. You know where Rosh Ha'ain is? Mm-hmm. So Rosh Ha'ain, if you're taking a car from Tel Aviv is by the coast, right? It's by the ocean, Mediterranean, beautiful beaches in Israel. I went to the beach here. The Atlantic is beautiful. It's awesome. It really is. But the waters are very cold and murky, and the Mediterranean is very beautiful, greenish type water. It's a different type of water. Every place has its own beauty, at least for dipping and for going in to make tevilah of Shabbat. I do prefer the warm Mediterranean, but that's me. Maybe some people like cold water. Nevertheless, they were by the Mediterranean. So if you go from Tel Aviv, you go towards the east, you get to Rosh Ha'ain. I think it's about a 30-minute drive, more or less, right? So figure 30 minutes, you're driving, you get to Rosh Ha'ain. That's where this war takes place. What does that tell you? It tells you this is trouble. They're leaving the coast, and they're beginning now. The Jews are in the areas of Judea and Samaria, which is the mountains. So let's say this is the Mediterranean Ocean. Plane is flying over the ocean, gets to Ben Gurion Airport, which is, pretty close to Tel Aviv. You keep going, eventually get to Rosh Ha'ain. So the Philistines are now reaching the Judean Samarian hills, and they want to conquer it. They want to get rid of the Jews. So this is an existential threat to the Jewish people, and they're there. They're about to kick them out. Look what happens in the story. So let's read the story. I gave you this background, and now you'll see what's happening. So I'm going to read it. Hold on one second. I will read the first pasuk in a moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol yam baro. Okay, I'm going to read with ta'amim. The reason I'm reading with ta'amim is because the pesukim were given to us by Ezra HaSofer with the ta'amim, and I think it's better to read with ta'amim. So I hope you will bear with me, and I'll read the pasuk. After I read the pasuk, I will explain the pasuk. Okay? So let's start. This pasuk has two parts. Vayhi levar Shemuel lechol Yisrael vayese Yisrael לקראת פלשתים למלחמה ויחנו על האבן העזר ופלשתים חנו באפק. The pasuk starts with the following statement. Shemuel became a national figure. The prophet Shemuel, his words were spreading out throughout Israel. That's it. He was a national figure. Initially, people would come to the prophet. They have a question. Should I marry this woman? I don't know what to do. I'm having this problem. Whatever the questions were. He's a prophet, so you go to him. You can really ask him questions like that. Okay. But then he began to address the entire nation. He reached such prominence that he wasn't talking anymore about individual issues. He was addressing them at the national level. Right? Israel needs this very badly. Like right now in Israel, we have so many machlokot, what to do. So if we had a Navi that was accepted by all the nation, we would be very pleased to hear his words and get his opinion. Because politics is always very messy, and there's always a lot of disagreements in politics, and people take it very, very seriously, and even times personally. So here we have a prophet. So he unified the people. I'll tell you why we said that in a moment. That's an important part of the story. It's going to tell you about the psychology of the people. Okay, but let's continue before we get there. And it says that the Jews now, the Philistines were right at the foot of the mountains leading up to Samaria, right? They're right there. That's a threat to the Jews. So the Jews have no choice but to go out and attack the Philistines. This is I would call it a defensive attack, similar to the attack of the Jews, state of Israel, in the 6-Day War. So people say, oh, the Jews attacked the Arabs. Well, yeah, we attacked the Arabs, of course, because they were there. They were threatening to annihilate the Jewish state, and they wanted to just, kick the Jews into the ocean. So it was, yes, it is correct that we were the first ones to go and attack them because we didn't want to get exterminated and thrown into the ocean. So yes, so that's called a defensive attack. So this is a defensive attack by the Jewish people because the Philistines are now about to enter Israel and literally split Israel down the middle. If you know the geography, they're going to split Israel down the middle, and then there will be complete disunity in the country, and from there they will be able to go north and south and kick the Jews out. So they're in a place called Even HaEzer, and that's right by Rosh Hashanah, as I said. And Pelishtim are a little to the west of Even HaEzer, and they're there. What happens? Vayarchu Pelishtim likrat Yisrael vatitosh hamilchama vayinagef Yisrael lifnei Pelishtim vayakku v'ma'aracha basadeh ke'arbat alafim ish. The Jews were ready, but the Philistines were more ready. So while the Jews go to attack them, the Philistines knew what's going to happen. They had everything set up. And when the Jews came to attack them, they used the attack to enter. So now the Jews are leaving. They used the attack to push in further eastward. And the battle doesn't take place anymore in the Philistine area. The battle takes place in the Jewish area. And over the course of the battle, 4,000 Jewish soldiers are killed. It was a debacle, a complete debacle. So now the remaining Jewish soldiers, naturally, they go back to the base camp, and they're now going to figure out what the next step is. So the next step is going to be shocking. It's going to be shocking. But wait, we'll say it now. ויבוא העם אל המחנה ויאמרו זקני ישראל למה נרפאנו אדוני היום לפני פלישתים ניקחה אלינו משילה את ארון ברית אדוני ויבוא בקרבנו ויושיענו מכף אויבינו. So they get back to the base camp, the soldiers get back, and the political leaders, the heads of the army, are in the base camp. And this becomes, as it should be, a religious issue. The question becomes, why did God do this to us? Now that's a good approach. Their initial question, their initial approach is great. The problem was with the answer they give, not with the approach. So they're saying, why did God allow us to get decimated by the Philistines? And they come up with an idea. Now, what should be the answer to that? The answer to that question should be, well, maybe we did something wrong. Maybe the high priest desecrating the holiest place in Israel, the holy temple, or the Mishkan as it was, maybe that's a reason why we got so terribly defeated, right? There's all types of reasons. Maybe it's because of the terrible, avonot that they're doing. There was a lot of avodah zarah. They were violating a lot of the Torah. There was a lot of reasons he could have given for why this terrible debacle. But they figured it out. And the answer is magic. Magic wasn't on our side, right? So you see, this already tells you how far away they are from the Torah. The fact that they're going to use magic, and I'll tell you what the magic that they use is in a moment. You'll see what the magic is. But the fact that, a person, something bad is happening in his life, so you can go to a rabbi, what happened? So I'll say, listen, maybe you should do this. Maybe you should give some tzedakah. Maybe you should, whatever. We'll have a conversation. So I have these types of conversations with the people. My answer to the person is never, you know what? I notice you don't have a red necklace around your arm. Put a red necklace. That'll protect you from the evil eye. It's the evil eye, and you got to have that red necklace. That will never be my answer, because that answer is a dishonest answer, and it is an anti-Torah answer. The Torah expects us to adhere to the mitzvot, and if God forbid we're going through a difficult thing in life, the answer is not magic. The answer is reality. What's the reality? What am I doing wrong? Am I mistreating somebody? Am I whatever it is? So figure it out. But their answer is magic. And what do they say? They say, okay, if God was with us, we would win the war. Now, what can we do to force God to be with us? So here's the trick. Let's bring into the battlefield the Ark of the Tabernacle. Now, that was the holiest object in the world, because the Ark contained in it the 10 Commandments brought down by Moshe Rabbeinu, written be'esba Elohim. Those 10 Commandments, the words on the 10 Commandments were written by God, right? And those tablets that were inside the Aron were sitting right next to the Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote. So the holiest objects in history were in that ark. And on top of that ark, on top of the ark were the Keruvim. Now, not only is the Aron the holiest object in Judaism, its place is in the Mishkan. That's where it belongs. So why would they want to take it out? So here's their thinking. Their thinking is as follows. Precisely because it's such a holy object. That's what's going to make us win the war. And you know why? Because God will never allow the Philistines to attack this holy object. He's going to protect it because he loves this holy object. So if God is protecting this holy object, he's going to protect us by extension, right? He's not going to let the Philistines take it because they will desecrate the ark. So you see the twisted logic? Let's kind of force God's hand. We're bringing the Aron HaKodesh into the camp, so God will protect the Aron HaKodesh, and by extension we will have to win the war, because otherwise if the Philistines win the war, they take the Aron HaKodesh. What do you think the next thing that happens is? They take the Aron HaKodesh. Okay, you can't play games with God. Okay, you can't play games with God. All right? So let's read about it. Let's see that. All right. So the next pasuk. Okay, first of all, they didn't take the Aron HaKodesh yet. They're all sitting in the base camp. The base camp is somewhere to the right. So Shiloh is here, and you go to the southwest. The base camp is in the southwest. Shiloh is in a higher mountain. It's more inland in the mountain area. And they're having this conversation. And here's what happens. Pasuk Daled. Look how the situation devolves. Vayishlach ha'am Shiloh. Vayis'u misham. Et Aron berit Adonai. Sebaot yoshev ha'keruvim. Vesham. Shene bnei Eli. Im Aron. Berit ha'Elohim. Hofni u'finehas. It says Vayishlach ha'am Shiloh. What does it mean Vayishlach ha'am? Who understands what the pasuk is saying? Vayishlach ha'am Shiloh. What does it mean ha'am?
The people.
What does the people mean?
Leaders? The Jews.
It doesn't say the leaders. Before, when it said the leaders, what was it called? Ziknei Israel. So, who is it that takes over? The mob. The Am. Who makes the Eigel HaZahav? The Am, the mob. It's not the Zekenim. It doesn't say Vayishlechu HaZekenim, it says Vayishlach HaAm. So now the mob, this is mob rule. This is typical mob rule. Okay? Now, so the mob literally goes to Shiloh and they carry away the Aron HaKodesh. Okay, now, if they were smart, let's say there was a religious question, there's a Sefer Torah, and you want something about the Sefer Torah, who would you come to before you take the Sefer Torah out of the knis?
The head of the...
Right. You would come to, I hope you would come to me, to the rabbi, you would ask me, right? That's what you would do. So we would have this conversation, what are you doing? You're not allowed to take a Sefer Torah out of the knis? It's haram. You can't just take it out. But we would have a conversation. These people are not having it. Now who can they ask? They can go to Shemuel. Didn't we say before? Now you see why it says at the beginning, Shemuel was a national prophet. And yet, they don't bother to ask him for his opinion. So you see how the mob mind works? Everything is magic, right? Everything is violence. It's mob rule. We decide, right? The will of the mob decides. They can ask the prophet. They can go and do the proper thing and find out what's going. Nobody says, hey guys, didn't we say in the previous chapter that everything Shemuel says ends up being 100% correct? So who do you go to? You go to Shemuel, but they don't do that. It's the mob, because the mob is arrogant. The mob is inflated mentally and psychologically with its own power and the feeling of power. So you get it? So there's a lot of real issues here. So it's mob rule, mob arrogance. Nobody goes to Shemuel. They go to the place of Shiloh. They carry the Aron HaKodesh. And the Pasuk says this Aron HaKodesh is Aron Berit Adonai Sevot Yoshev HaKerubim. This is the holiest place. This is where God sits upon, sort of the Shekinah is upon the Keruvim. And Hashem, the Shekinah, above the Keruvim. The Keruvim were those two angelic beings above the images above the Aron. There was these golden Keruvim, which symbolizes the Keruvim above the Aron, symbolizes how Hashem is close to those humans who are pure of heart, right? So there's a symbol, it's a very deep symbolism, meaning a human being who reaches a high intellectual and spiritual state, a special purity like gold. Hashem is close to that person. But these people, this mob, is the exact opposite of the Keruvim. You understand the point? You see the contrast between the Am, which is just a violent mob. They're arrogant. They don't speak to Shemuel. They take away the Aron, literally carry it away. And the Keruvim, which is what the Aron is really about. Pure, humble, beautiful, intelligent people. That's what Hashem wants. And that's what Hashem is close to. He's not close to a rabble-rouser mob. Get it? So let's see how this unfolds. You want a book? Yeah, here. We have here verse Vayihi Kebo Aron. Of course. ויהי כבוא ארון ברית אדוני אל המחנה ויריעו כל ישראל תרועה גדולה ותהום הארץ. And when the people see the Aron HaKodesh, the army is there, and the people come in with this amazing trophy, people start shouting. Teruot is like the sound of the shofar of victories. Now, let me explain to you. When you won the war, at the end of the war, there would be this shouting of victory. So when the Super Bowl finished, for those of you who are Kansas City Chief fans, which by the way is in Missouri, not in Kansas, just want to get that straight. So for those of you who happen to be fans of the Kansas City Chiefs, so after that they all go they start, making this amazing celebration and yay. But during the game, you're looking, they have the camera, when they were down by 10 points or whatever that was. There was a point where they were down by 14 points, I don't remember. And there's a certain solemnity, right? Because you didn't win the game. Okay, you score a touchdown, yay! Okay, now look again. Are they going to score another touchdown? What's going to happen? We don't know. Okay, and then they finally win the game, and they have all the confetti, and people are screaming and shouting, and it's exciting. The victory celebration is after you win the game. What are they doing, this mob? They're doing it before. You see again, with the arrogance comes stupidity, right? So they have this hyper-inflated sense of themselves. They brought the Aron HaKodesh. It's an arm wrestle. We just defeated God. Ha! We're winning this war. There's no way God is going to give up his Aron HaKodesh. Of course not. We protect it. We're doing God a favor. Quid pro quo. We do God a favor. We protect Aron. He will not let it go to the Philistines. So there's this shouting. And as the shouting is taking place, there's echoes of the shouting and the victory celebration. It fills the land. And who hears these echoes? Who hears the shouting from far away? the Philistines hear it, and they get that something is up. And let's see what the Philistine reaction is in a moment. You're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised at what the Philistines say. Okay, but first let's read the Pasuk. Pasuk Vav. וישמעו פלישתים את כל התרועה ויאמרו מה כל התרועה הגדולה הזאת במחנה העברים וידעו כי ארון אדוני בא אל המחנה. The Philistines hear these shouts of victory. What are they excited about? What happened? And then they send their intelligence division to spy on the Jews, and they see the Aron HaKodesh, and they see the Keruvim, and this must have been quite a sight, because with the Keruvim was the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah was actually there, and they never saw anything like this. And at this moment, the Pasuk says that the Philistines became scared. ויראו הפלישתים כי אמרו בא אלוהים אל המחנה ויאמרו אוי לנו כי לא הייתה כזאת אתמול שלשום. And the Philistines, they become scared and they say, gods have entered the military base of the Jewish people, and we never saw anything like this before, because what they saw with their eyes, as I said, above the Aron HaKodesh was the Shekhinah. It was there, and it's something that you can see, meaning, and it's something scary. So they never experienced something like this. They became terrified, and the words that the Philistines say now, well, maybe I shouldn't say it, but their reaction to what this mob just did is far more intelligent than what the mob just did. Okay, let's just leave it at that. So what they're going to say now shows a certain maturity, which, again, in a sense, surpasses the maturity of this mob that takes this Aron HaKodesh and carelessly and negligently just puts it in the middle of a battlefield. So here's what they say. Listen to their words. The Philistines, here's what they say. Oy lanu, woe unto us. Mi yasilenu, miyad ha'elohim ha'adirim ha'ele. Who can save us from these powerful gods? And I'll explain that in a moment, what they mean by that. Ele hem ha'elohim. These gods are the ones that brought the plagues on the Egyptians. Everybody heard about the plagues, the 10 plagues that hit Egypt. Hamakim et Misraim bechol makkah bamidbar. These gods are the ones that not only attack the Egyptians in Egypt, but also in the desert. What do they mean, these gods? Yeah. What gods? They're saying these gods. I looked at the Mefarshim, I didn't see this. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one who's observed this, but I suppose there were others who might have observed this, but I didn't find it. So I'll attribute it to myself, and if I find somebody else who said it, I will attribute to them. Look, these are pagans. These are not the children of Avraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. What they see is they see 2 angels. So they figure each angel is a god, right? They don't know how to process the Shekhinah. We understand the Shekhinah is one. We see the angels. We don't pray to the angels. We pray to the Shekhinah. We don't pray to the images, right? But they view the actual images, each one as a separate god. And they say, these are the gods that brought the plagues upon the Egyptians and did all those fantastic miracles. They become scared. They don't know what to do. We'll see what they do in a moment. But Hachamim say something kind of insightful. And they say, if you look at the Pasuk, it's split into 2. The first part of the Pasuk says, Mi yasilenu miyad ha'elohim ha'adim ha'eleh. Who will save us from these gods? Period. And then the second part of the Pasuk says, these are the gods that brought the plagues on Egypt. These are the gods that brought every type of plague in the desert. Those are 2 parts of the Pasuk. And the Chachamim say, the intelligent among the Philistines said, Elohim Adirim, this God is a powerful God. we don't have anything we can do. We are doomed. Then the second part of the pasuk is actually referring to another part of the Philistines who were a bit more brazen and wicked, and they say, hold on guys, this God did what he did in Egypt, and he did what he did in the desert. That's it. The weapon, the ammunitions are, they're a guy with, this, he shoots, eventually you run out of bullets, right? I don't know how many bullets you have in the gun, whatever. So that's it, he's out of ammunition. Bechol Makkah. What does it mean, Bechol Makkah? He used all his energy against the Egyptians. Again, these are pagans, they're Gentiles, they don't understand what God really is, right? So he used all his energy against the Egyptians. He used all his energy in the desert. He has nothing left. You have nothing to be scared of. You have nothing to be scared of. Nevertheless, this is the reaction of the Philistines, and here's what they decide to do. They realize that if they don't do something, they're going to be doomed. So they decide to do something. Here it is. התחזקו ויהיו לאנשים פלשתים פן תעבדו לעברים כאשר עבדו לכם והייתם לאנשים ונלחמתם. They say, if we enter the battlefield scared, we will lose the battle. And this is a principle in warfare. It is a principle which is actually enunciated in the Torah. There is a pasuk in the Torah, or pasukim in the Torah, that say, before you go to war, you get the soldiers together, and you check, and you want to see, is there anybody who just got married? Okay, leave the battle. You're thinking about your wife, not thinking about the war. Okay, anybody who just planted a vineyard and didn't have the fruits? Okay, go back. You're thinking about your vineyard. They do this vetting process. Is there anybody who's scared? Anybody who has a particular fear, afraid of dying? If you're afraid of dying, don't go to the battle. You're going to be thinking about saving yourself, not about fighting a war properly. That's exactly what the Philistines do. They say, guys, we cannot go into this battle afraid of death. If we go into the battle afraid of death, we will lose the battle. We will certainly die. Let's be strong. Be men. V'yula anashim literally means be men, right? Maybe this is the earliest use. What are you, a man or a mouse? We want to be men, right? And if we don't do it, you should know that the Jews will catch us and they will turn us into slaves the same way we want to turn them into slaves. They want to turn the Jews into slaves, right? That's later on. We'll see how, And so they say, listen, guys, fight the war, fight to the finish. Don't be cowards, because if you're cowards, you'll lose and you become a bunch of slaves. And that's exactly what they do. The pasuk says, pasuk yod, and this is shocking. וילחמו פלישתים, וינגף ישראל, וינוסו איש לאוהליו, ותהי המכה גדולה מאוד, ויפול מישראל 30,000 רגלי. They go out, they fight the war, they go with courage, and the Jews run away. And as they're running away, they pick them off one by one, and they kill 30,000. 30, that's a huge amount. I mean, this is, back then, this is like a huge, even today it's a huge amount. God forbid. 30,000 soldiers killed in one battle. But worst of all, Va'aron Elohim nilkach, Mushne bene Eli metu, Hofni ufinehas. On this day and in this battle, the Ark of the Tabernacle was taken by the Philistines. They caught it. It's actually in their hands. And the two sons of Eli, do you remember what Elkanah told Eli? He said, this is going to be the sign. First, Elkanah tells Eli, you're going to be marked off from serving as a high priest. Your descendants are all going to be excluded. It's over. And then he told them, I'm giving you a sign. And when this sign happens, you will know that what I said is true. Do you remember what the sign he gave him was? Who remembers the sign?
That they will die on the same day.
That his two sons will both die on the same day. These wicked sons, the ones that abused the people, that invalidated the sacrifices, that were pigs, that took more than they would deserve, that they didn't act like Kohanim, they didn't act with the modesty that you would expect of a Kohen, but on the contrary, they acted with tremendous conceit and tremendous abuse of the people. He said, those two sons will die, and these two sons died right here. They died on the same day. So 30,000 Jews were killed. The Aron was taken. The two sons of Eli are killed. It's almost like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Imagine that the Yamach Shimon, the Nazis, they took the Ark and they took it so this is this isn't a story. It's not a Hollywood fiction. This actually happened. They got the Ark in their hands, this holy object. Now it's so holy, and it really is holy. They don't even know what they got. We're going to read about it next week. They don't know. They think, oh, yeah, we got the Ark. Like, yeah, it's great. That's it. Like, this is tremendous. You wait and see the trouble they get because of this Ark. It's really quite remarkable. But okay, but we're not there yet. That's next week. First, this week. Vayaros ish Binyamin mehama'aracha vayabo Shilo bayom hahu umadav keru'im va'adama al rosho. And here's the story. The people in Shiloh. Eli is a very old man. He's in Shiloh. They just took away the Ark from the Mishkan. They don't know what's going on. There's no CNN, there's no Fox News, there's no nothing. They just don't know what's going on. He's waiting for somebody to come and report. So what happened? Right? This is a real serious thing. And this guy from the tribe of Benjamin, a soldier, escapes from the battle, and he makes it all the way up to the northeast. He gets to Shiloh, up the mountain. He gets to where Eli is. He gets to the Mishkan. The Mishkan is now with Eli. The Ark is no longer there. And his clothing are torn, and he's filled with soil and dirt, meaning this guy is like barely made it. He barely made it to Eli. He barely made it to the city. And he's now going to give them the report of the battle. Vayavo ve'hine Eli yoshev al hakiseh. Just 1 second. יד דרך מספר כי היה ליבו חרד על ארון האלוהים והאיש בא להגיד בעיר ותזעק כל העיר. And Eli has a premonition in his heart. Sometimes it happens that people they have a extra sense, or sometimes even a person doesn't have extra sense, but you have a premonition, a dream, something bothering you. You feel that something is wrong. So Eli feels terribly disturbed. He doesn't know what's disturbing him, but he has a terrible feeling, and he's anxiously looking at the road where they would be coming up the mountain to the city of Shiloh. And this guy from Binyamin, he's entering the city, and he didn't get to Eli yet. He's entering the city. Eli is somewhere on the other side of the city. He's entering the city, and he's reporting to the people what happened. And as he's entering the city, screaming breaks out in the city. And Eli hears this. Eli hears the screaming, so he's scared. He's like, what just happened? What's the story? So he becomes terrified. So you see everything that Elkanah told Eli comes true. Everything that Shemuel told Eli, he's thinking about these things, and he's scared. So, וישמע עלי את כל הצעקה ויאמר מכל ההמון הזה והאיש מיהר ויבוא ויגד לעלי. And Eli hears the screaming, and he says, what's the news? What's the screaming about? And this person races in to the place of the holy Mishkan, and he begins to tell Eli what just happened. Now Eli himself, the pasuk says, ואלי בן 98 שנה ועיניו קמה ולא יכול לראות. Now at this point, Eli is 98 years old, and his eyes were very heavy, so he couldn't see the person, because had he seen the person, he would have immediately, from the way the person looks, he would have understood that that this person is not coming from some victory. It's not screaming of victory. And the person begins to tell to Eli what happened. And here's the way he reports it. And I want you to pay attention to the way he orders the way he orders the things. There's several things he's going to tell him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at the order, and this will tell you a lot about the thinking of Eli and the thinking of the person that reports this. So listen to the report. I'm going to read the 2 Pesukim, and then I'm going to explain them to you. ויאמר האיש אל עלי אנוכי הבא מן המערכה ואני מן המערכה נסתי היום ויאמר מי היה הדבר בני. So first of all, he introduces himself to Eli. He says, yes, I'm the person that has caused all this screaming, because as I said, Eli was blind. He says, I'm the person who caused all this screaming. I just came from the war. I came from the war today. And Eli says, can you please report to me what happened? And he says as follows, ויען המבשר ויאמר נס ישראל לפני פלישתים וגם מגפה גדולה הייתה בעם וגם שני בניך מתו חופני ופינחס וארון האלוהים נלקחה. And here's the order. He says, number 1, the Jewish people ran away from the Philistines. We lost the war. But that's the least worst of the news. There's something worse. And there was a terrible debacle. 30,000 people died. But that's not the worst. There's something even worse. And in addition to the 30,000 dead soldiers, your 2 sons, Hofni and Phinehas, died. Now he's hearing this, and he's remembering the prophecy. And the worst thing, Va'aron ha'elohim nilkacha, the ark was taken. Never happened before in Jewish history, and it never happened again. It never happened before, because in the days of Moses, it was always in the hands of the Jewish people. In the days of Joshua, even in the days of the judges, when things were not so good, this was a terrible stain on Eli's leadership as a priest. And it never will happen again, because what happened when the Babylonians came into Israel 400 or 500 years later, and they destroyed the temple, and they wanted to take the Ark of the Tabernacle, where was it? It was gone. Because Jeremiah saw in the prophetic vision that one day the Babylonians will enter the city of Jerusalem, destroy the city, enter the temple, destroy the temple. And he saw this in his vision, and he says, if God forbid they took the ark, it would be over. So he took the ark and he hid it in a subterranean tunnel somewhere under the temple. So when the Babylonians came centuries later, there was nothing to take. Not the ark, at least. There were other things, but that was hidden safely. And here's the point. After he hid the ark, it was never again found. When the Jews returned 70 years later from Babylonia, and they rebuilt the temple, they didn't know where the ark was hidden. The second temple did not have an Aron HaKodesh. When the Kohen Gadol, when the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, in the days of the first temple, what would he see in front of him? The Aron HaKodesh. He would see the ark, and he would see the Keruvim. When he entered in the days of the second temple, there was no ark there. There was no Keruvim. The Shekhinah was there, but there was nothing from the days of Moses. So where is that? So Masechet Shekalim, for those of you who study Masechet Shekalim, it says where the ark is. And we know, we believe, we don't just believe, because we know that whatever we believe is actually fact. So whatever we believe, whatever the prophets told us, whatever Isaiah tells us, whatever Yechezkel tells us, we believe in their words, but these are facts, meaning everything they said comes true. So we know that when the Mashiach comes and we rebuild the third temple, part of that will be the rediscovery of the ark. Meaning the same ark that the Philistines take here, this is the ark. This is the ark that was built by Moshe Rabbeinu when the Jews were in the desert, that contains the 10 Commandments, that contains the Sefer Torah written by Moshe Rabbeinu and other holy objects. This ark will be rediscovered in the days of the Mashiach. Right? So that's That's thousands of years, by the way. That's thousands of years that it was taken away from the Jewish people. But nevertheless, this is a great calamity. And when he hears that it was taken away, he understands what a horrible, horrible calamity it is. And here's what happens to Eli. And this is the end of his career, literally. ויהי כהזכירו את ארון האלוהים ויפול מעל הכיסא אחורנית בעד יד השער ותשבר מפרקתו וימות כי זקן האיש וכבד והוא שפט את ישראל 40 שנה. When this young soldier from the tribe of Benjamin mentions to him, he mentions to him that the Jews lost the war, he can take it. He mentions to him that the 30,000 dead, he can take it. He mentions to him that his 2 sons died, he can take that also. But when he mentions to him that the Aron HaKodesh was taken, he becomes overwhelmed with grief, he becomes dizzy, and he falls backward. He's sitting on a chair, and he falls backward. And as he falls backward, he's 98 years old, he breaks his spine, and he dies. And that's the end of Eli. He was a Sadiq with mistakes and with faults. He was a Sadiq. He was a Shofet. He was part of the link between us and Moses. So don't think too negatively upon him, but he made a mistake. What was his mistake?
Sons.
And more so, people who are Sadiqim, they say everything is going to be okay with me. Of course, I'm a Sadiq. What can possibly go wrong? It's natural to think that, right? But it's just not always true. So as natural it is to think, oh, I'm a Sadiq, and everything will be good, and my sons will be great. But it's just not always true, okay? No, he made a big mistake. And when he saw his sons doing what they were doing, he should have stopped it. But he didn't. And so it's a tragic ending to a tragic, in a sense, a tragic figure. Eli was a tragic because he had such potential. He was a great man. He was a man of great Torah knowledge, a man of prophecy, so he reached very high spiritual state, but a man who made mistakes, and he paid dearly for those mistakes. And his reign over the Jewish people was exactly 40 years. Let's finish the chapter, because I think that next week we're going to be reading about what happens with the Philistines, okay? So let's just finish the chapter. I'm going to read the Pesukim, go through the Pesukim, and then if you have any questions, I'll take the questions at the end. We have about 4 Pesukim to the end of the chapter, or even less. 1, 2, 3, okay, 4 Pesukim. וחלתו אשת פנחס הרללת ותשמע את השמועה אל הלקח ארון האלוהים ומת חמיה ואישה ותכרע ותלד כי נהפכו עליה סיריה. And the continuation of the tragedy, the daughter-in-law of Eli just heard that her son Pinechas, remember there was 2 sons, there was Hofni and there was Pinechas. She just heard that her husband died, and she's okay with all of that. She can take it. But when she hears that the Aron HaKodesh is gone, and she hears, of course, about that Eli died and her husband died, it was too much for her to take. She was pregnant. She gives birth early. The baby survives, and here's what happens. וכעת מותה ותדברנה הנישאות עליה אל תיראי כי בן ילדת ולא ענתה ולא שתה ליבה. And she gives birth to a baby boy. The baby survives, but she's completely uninterested in any of this. And she calls her son a name which I forget which story it's from. Ichabod Crane. What story is that from? Somebody help me with English, with American literature. Ichabod Crane. Was that in? Who was the author? Which one?
No, I'm not right.
Am I the only one who reads Ichabod Crane? Come on.
I'm the only one who
It's just. I'm sorry. I apologize. I take that back completely. For some reason, I'm just not remembering who Ichabod
I know
Crane.
something that you know. What can I tell you?
What? Oh, you know?
No, but I said we all know something different.
Okay, so he's a character. So anyway, Ichabod is this is where the name comes from. Ichabod is actually a contraction of 2 Hebrew words, I-chavod. There was no honor. Meaning, yes, I had a son, but there's no, I'm not gleaning in this. It's such a terrible day that it doesn't even matter to me. ותאמר גלה כבוד מישראל כי נלקח ארון האלוהים. And with the disappearance of the Ark of the Tabernacle, all the glory has left Israel. Because as I said, the glory of Hashem resided on the Ark. And with that gone, we are now in a new era in Jewish history. Eli died. Hofni and Pinechas would naturally be his successors, died. The Jews lost the battle. The Philistines from here, they go to Shiloh, they destroy the Mishkan. That's a continuation of the story. They destroy the Mishkan. The tribes are disconnected. The Philistines are now splitting Israel into two. And all seems really, really terrible, right? And the worst thing about this is that Hashem put the cure right in front of their faces. And nobody bothers to go to Shemuel yet and say, Shemuel, what can we do? Right? Because that would have been the cure for everything. So that's the worst thing. The worst thing is, like people say, why doesn't the Mashiach come? Right? Like, just between us and the people watching on YouTube and the rest of humanity who can watch us on YouTube. So, why doesn't the Mashiach come? And I say, as soon as we're ready for the Mashiach will come, right? Like, can you imagine if the Mashiach came to the Knesset now? I mean, like, what would that look like? Like, are they really, right? Are they, who would say, yeah, we right? You understand me? So who would accept him? Where would he go to? Who would receive him? So it's the same thing. So that's what the story says. The Savior was right there. It was Shemuel. And eventually they wake up and they get this. So, but they didn't get it at this point. So why doesn't Hashem send them? Because it's a waste. He wants to send them when we can accept him. So Hashem sends Shemuel, and eventually the people understand that through Shemuel they can rebuild the nation. That's what's going to happen. That's the second part of the future story. But before we get to the rebuilding of the Jewish nation, you're going to have a lot of fun next week. Because when you read what happens to the Philistine cities, they're all excited to get the Aron of the Jewish people. They don't know what to do with it. They're like, at the end of the story, they just don't know what can they do with the Aron, that they won't get God angry, but they don't want the Aron anymore because you'll read, it's like a Steven Spielberg movie, what happens in the Philistine cities. That's next week. Questions?
I have two comments.
Please.
Okay, so the first comment is why would they take Aaron and Brit into the war with them? It's maybe similar ideas how we put mezuzot on our doors to protect ourselves. So it's a holy relic. Maybe it will have its own.
Yes.
That's the way they were thinking.
Right.
I'm not saying if it's true or not. The other one I was thinking about is when you said they're gods.
Yeah.
It seems that they're gods. Maybe they think that when in Egypt, that each Makkah was ruled by a different god. Like, so they had many gods. Maybe that's why they said their God is coming. They didn't,
right.
think.
So let me.
That's my opinion.
Right. Let me address your first point. So it's true that there were some wars where they took the Aron HaKodesh into the battlefield, but if you're not worthy, if the Jewish people are not worthy, and this is a mistake they made, they lost the war. Now let's bring the Aron. Well, you're not worthy. Why would the Aron help you if you're not worthy? But their thinking was twisted. You understand? So we bring the Aron HaKodesh because we believe we are a holy army. We are a people that have Torah, that have mitzvot. And the Aron HaKodesh belongs in that type of army. And yes, we used to go with the Aron HaKodesh and Moshe Rabbeinu and Yoshua bin Nun, and then go to the war with the Aron HaKodesh because we were Tzaddikim, Tzaddikim, and we go that way to the war. These people were Reshaim, and now they say, let's fix it by bringing the Aron HaKodesh in, but it doesn't belong to you. So Hashem says, you know what, I'd rather have it with the Philistines than with you people, and just leave it at that, right? So that's how the story develops. And your second point was, I still think they looked at it and they suddenly saw the two cherubim, but as you wish.
Maybe.
As you wish,
they
can...
They always said there's many different gods. Each god controls a different...
Right, perhaps. Any other questions? Yes, young man.
Yes. So why didn't Bnei go to Shemuel?
Right, so because...
They didn't know about him?
So this shows a certain psychological attitude. They knew about Shemuel. He was teaching them Torah. but this is about power and politics. I want to be in charge. I want to make the decision. I want to be the president. I want to be this. I want to be that, because it's about me. It's not about the people. And if I go to Shemuel and like he's now steals the show, it diminishes from my power. You got it? So this is the mob. The mob loves power. And the mob will not go to an intelligent person and allow him to get credit for doing something good. Let the people suffer, but let us not lose power. Yes, sir.
You're going to Shemuel, he's going to tell you you're doing something wrong, and you're not going to accept it because you're the villain. And
Probably.
He's going to tell you what, and the villain's going to say, I don't understand.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
I
Good.
have something.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so going back to the beginning in what it says, ויצא ישראל לקראת פלסטין.
Yes.
והדק explained, ויצא ישראל, כלומר ציווה אותם לצאת בדבר השם ויצאו.
Yes.
ציווה אותם לצאת להינגף לפני פלסטין לפי שהיו ענושים וחייבים את המשפט
Yes,
הזה.
right. I'm familiar with that Adak. There's a few approaches, but then if you continue in that Adak, you see he gives an approach that's more similar to mine. That Adak himself later on brings another alternative. Yes, Stephen.
Why were two cherubs? I know that we don't look at it as
Avodah Zarah.
right, but why did it ever come about?
Right. So in Perashat
What was the
Terumah,
thinking?
yeah. So in Perashat Terumah, where Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to build a Mishkan, he instructs Moses to make the cherubs. It wasn't something that the human
I don't
mind
think-
conceived of. It was
I
from
didn't
God.
think it was one of us.
And what
Why
does
did
it
God
mean?
put it out there for
To
us
show us-
to get confused
Yes,
with
to sh-
looking at it.
Right. To show us that while you're never allowed to come close to the ark because it is so holy, and you're not even allowed to enter the room where the ark is in because that's the holy of holies, and only the Kohen can go there once a year on Yom Kippur, and yet these two pure angelic figures are there to teach us that if you are angelic and pure of heart and have the attributes of those keruvim, you can be close to God as well. So that's the message of the keruvim. So it's not that Hashem wants to push us away. Hashem wants us to bring us in, but He will only allow gold. He will not allow silver or copper in His presence. You want to be close to God, you must be perfect.
Didn't
At
they
every
do-
level.
Didn't they swivel?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a midrash, of course. I think we have to say ברכת המזון, רבי חננה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר לאדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר.